Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Ike Love. I'm creating author of the blog, The Viable Alternative. This is an inspirational blog where I share the wisdom and insights gained along my path to becoming a greater, stronger version of myself. And if you want to go find out more about what's on the site, click under the window where it says description, and you'll see the link for www.theviablealternative.com. So, boys and girls, today I want to talk about 4 ways to overcome negative thinking. And I think this is very important because if you look at the self-improvement industry and all these books and seminars they give, they all talk about and focus on how to overcome negative thinking and think positive. But frankly speaking, most of the stuff out there, I've read books like The Power of Positive Thinking by Norman Vincent Peale and What to Say When You Talk to Yourself by Shad Helmstetter, and just a bunch of other books. And frankly speaking, none of them really work for me at all. I've been on the path of self-improvement since November 2000. Don't ask me why, how I remember that, but I've been on there since November 2000. And basically speaking, for the first 9 years of that, I really made no improvement whatsoever and was just frustrated and just getting nowhere. And frankly speaking, really what's worked for me was just my own trial and error, and going through therapy also gave me the tools to really overcome negative thinking and really make me feel that I'm in a place where I'm the most control of my mind that I've ever been before, or just the most grounded. And I choose to share this with you because if this worked for me, it definitely will work for you. I've always been the guy that's always been a tough case, that always was hard for me to get things. And so if I'm getting this, don't worry, you'll get this as well. So step number 1, change the way you respond to your negative thinking. And what I mean by this is that it's not so much the thoughts that we have, but it's how we respond to them. And I noticed it was back in 2013, early 2013, as I started becoming more self-aware, because I was desperate to just take control of my mind. I noticed as I had these negative thoughts, it was not so much the way what happened, what the thoughts were, but it's how I responded to them that was negative. For instance, now I get a thought in my head of, you're a failure. Like I was going to try something, immediately triggered, you're a failure. What I start to think after that was, yes, I'm a failure. That's right, I'm a failure. So what's the use of even trying? Maybe I'll just do something else. It's easier because I failed before. So what's the use of even trying this now? Because, I'm going to fail. It's going to be hard. And, I've always failed this stuff. And, again, the thought happened. And it automatically was triggered with this whole series of thought pattern that basically reinforced the initial negative thought. But watch this. Think about us crossing the street. We've been crossing the street since we were little kids. And the fact of the matter is, now I hope we have a certain degree of confidence in crossing the street that nothing will ever happen to us, provided we're crossing on, when the light is green, and we're not idiotically crossing like some 7-lane expressway where it's likely we'll get killed. But if we're crossing a normal street, basically speaking, we're very confident nothing's ever really going to happen to us. And should now a negative thought come up in our heads that you suck at this, you suck at crossing the streets, we're like, what do you mean? You're going to be like that? What do you mean I suck at this thing? I've been crossing the street since I was 7 years old or 6 years old by myself, and nothing's ever happened, and nothing's going to happen now. You see? There was a negative thought of us that came up about what will happen to us when we cross the street. But our response was positive, such that this negative thought had no effect on us. So you see, it's not the negative thought in and of itself, it's how we respond to them. So in our lives, we have a negative thought, but we're conditioned to think negatively to this negative thought. So it's incumbent upon us now to change the way we respond to the negative thoughts. So, we're so used to the way we respond to these negative thoughts, it's like unconscious. So we have to wake up to what we're saying to ourselves when these negative thoughts come up, and then now train ourselves to respond in a different way. So for instance, now we're habitually conditioned to go down this direction. We have to now condition ourselves to stop and go in another direction. And we go this other direction enough time, it becomes a habit. So no longer this negative thought has a negative effect to us. So again, not only do we now become aware of negative thoughts, but now become aware of how we respond to them and now choose a different path and cultivate a different habit, a newer habit that's more positive. Step number 2, get in touch with our emotion. Learn to get in touch with our emotions while we're thinking these negative thoughts. And so the problem with what's taught about negative thinking is this. We're taught to focus on the smoke alarm and not the fire that's triggering the smoke, that's triggering the alarm. You know, when we're reading these books about negative thinking, we're like, oh, well, just think positive, change your negative thoughts by just telling yourself more positive things. But a lot of times it's like we're focused on the smoke, getting rid of the smoke. We're focused on just turning off the alarm and not dealing with the fire that's producing the smoke. And many times the fire are our emotions. You see, just like thoughts produce emotions, emotions produce thoughts. And if you think about it like this, throughout our entire lives, we've gone through different situations where we've had an emotional response to them. And what happens, because in society, we're not really taught how to properly deal with our emotions and properly give them an outlet, they just remain stuck in our bodies. Now, granted, women are usually better at dealing with emotions than men, but generally speaking, in a general sense, both men and women, we're full of emotions stuck in our bodies that never were given an outlet. And because emotions produce thoughts, when we get into a certain situation that triggers the emotion, maybe we go in a situation that reminds us of something that we've gone through in the past with the associated emotion, we start feeling the emotion, and the emotion starts now producing the corresponding thoughts. Think about if we feel angry, we produce the corresponding angry thoughts. If we feel resentful, we now notice we start thinking resentful thoughts. So now we're walking around in the day feeling all these negative thoughts, and we're just trying to deal with the thoughts. But now, if we were now to get in touch with what we're feeling at that certain time, we'll notice a corresponding emotion to it. So if we're feeling the emotion of anger while we're going through these, we feel the emotion of anger that's triggering these negative thoughts, what we need to do now is find an appropriate outlet. Maybe get a journal and start just writing until all of a sudden you no longer feel that emotional anger in you. Or you may want to go for a jog or do something active that will give this emotion of anger an outlet. Or maybe if you're feeling some type of guilt, or thinking guilty thoughts, maybe you're feeling guilty. And maybe you're feeling guilty because there's something you should have done earlier in the day you didn't do. Go do that thing. And all of a sudden you notice now that the guilt has disappeared and the corresponding thoughts that come with it are gone as well. So a lot of times, again, why it's so hard sometimes to just think positive is because thinking positive is not enough. We have to get to the emotion that's producing the thoughts and let that emotion dissipate by doing the appropriate things, and the thoughts will disappear. Step number 3, learn to get out of your head and into your body. Basically, learn to embody yourself. See, the problem is, number one, the whole paradigm that the West follows about who we are in our consciousness is wrong and leads to negative thinking. We're basically taught that who we are is in our heads. So, basically speaking, when we're thinking negative thoughts, we try to do our negative thoughts with more thinking, and that just generally does not work. To how does it say this? Who said this? I think I'm not going to say it because I'm going to just butcher it and say it wrong. But basically speaking, the equivalent of using our thoughts to get rid of negative thinking is like using a fire to put out a fire, or to using water to dry a wet floor. It's insane. It doesn't work. And what we're doing is trying to use more thinking to get rid of thinking. A lot of times, the problem is not even the negative thoughts, it's just that we're thinking too damn much, and we're just in this endless loop, and it becomes negative because it's really holding us back. So what we really do is learn to get out of our heads and so that we get out of the madness. And to do that, we have to embody ourselves, get into our bodies. We're not only who we are in our head. Our heads is not only who we are. Our bodies also encompass who we are. And so to get into our bodies, start breathing deeply. Do deep breathing. Deep breathing helps to take the focus out of our heads and puts the focus back into our bodies where our core lies. Also, what we want to do is ground ourselves by feeling our feet on the ground. Literally speaking, when you walk in the street or whatever, feel your feet walk on the ground and making contact with the ground. When you do that, it takes the focus out of your head onto your feet and gives a sense of grounding and centeredness. And when we have that, we have now the spontaneity where we're now just like in the flow, in the present, rather than just being up in our heads where we're just constantly stuck in this negative thought loop. A great book that solves half the problem is that book by Eckhart Tolle called The Power of Now. But the problem I found with that book is that while it talks these great theories about being present, it doesn't teach us how to get out of our heads and be grounded. You cannot be present without being grounded. And these techniques of deep breathing and feeling our feet on the ground helps us to get that grounding that can get us present and get us out of our head. But without a proper sense of grounding, it's kind of like the equivalent of trying to dry ourselves by standing in a pool. We were standing in a pool with a towel, drying ourselves. The towel's getting wet, and we're staying wet because we're still in the pool. And in order for us to fully and properly dry ourselves, we have to step out of the pool and get a towel and dry ourselves, and then we become fully dry. Well, we cannot become present when we're still stuck in our heads. We have to get out of our heads into our bodies, and that's when we become present. And so the equivalent of stepping out of the pool to dry ourselves is getting out of our heads into our bodies. And that will then now allow and put a stop to the negative thinking we have, So, and practices that are very helpful in us getting to our bodies is our yoga and meditation. Yoga with the activities takes the different exercises and poses, takes the emphasis and focus off our head into our bodies. And meditation, obviously the continual practice of meditation, where we're deep breathing and we're not paying attention to our thoughts, puts a focus in our bodies and teaches us to cultivate the habit of overcoming negative thinking, because once we think negatively, we just center ourselves and it puts a stop to the negative thinking. And let me believe you me, that has been a tremendous help to me, just feeling my feet and deep breathing. And I learned a lot of that through the body-oriented therapy that I go through. And so when I'm feeling negatively and I can't escape the negative thoughts, me just focusing on my feet on the ground and deep breathing, it literally just it brings the negative thinking from a 10 to like a 4, so that I'm not being sucked into my head. So if that helps me, I hope that helps for you. And the last step, and follow me, this is a little, it may be complicated, but trust me, it's not really that complicated. It's learn to identify the different negative voices that are going off in your head. You'll find that not all negative thoughts, once you become self-aware and you start taking notice of, or become self-aware and start taking notice of the negative thoughts that are going on in your head, and you'll find that not all negative thoughts are created equal. Different negative thoughts are telling you different things over and over again. You may find one negative thought telling you that you're a failure over and over and over again. Another negative thought telling you you're ugly over and over and over again. Another negative thought bringing up that mistake you made 20 years ago over and over and over again. And so they're all negative, but they're different. I'll give you an example. In the 2.5 years of therapy, I think the first year was basically spent on just identifying the different negative thoughts that were holding me back. And a lot of them obviously were started from childhood and the relationship with my pops. And one of these negative thoughts will tell me that I couldn't go forward because I fell before. So basically it was telling me, well, you can't go forward because you fell before, but you fell before, so you can't go forward. You have to just be where you were because you fell before. You're not allowed to go forward because you fell before. So that was one of them. And I think we called it like Mr. Failure. The next negative thought that I had was called Mr. Not Good Enough, which basically said that I can't go forward in what I was doing because it wasn't good as what I did before. So it would tell me, yeah, but this is what you did before. It was not as good as you did before, so you have to go back and do it again. You have to go back and do it again because this is what you did before, because you have to go back and do it again. See the constant loop? And another one was Mr. Fix It, we call it. And basically it would go like this. well, you can't move forward because that mistake you made before. You have to fix that mistake because you can't move forward because you have to fix it. You have to fix it. You can't move forward because this has to be fixed. So combine that with all the other different negative thoughts I had that I put names on, it kept me just trapped. They were all negative, but they each had its own different characteristic, and they would repeat the same loop over and over again. So as a practice now, what I learned that I started to get down pat was I would just basically breathe deeply, feel my feet, and I put like a kind of like a force foot out of myself, like make a space for myself. And that space I made for myself encompassed me. And now what I would do now is put these negative thoughts outside that space. And this space I had was kind of like a force field, so the negative thoughts couldn't come in. So what basically happened over the course of time, I was able to have a sense of separation between me and those negative thoughts. So I'd be sitting down and I'd make a space for myself, and I'd actually be literally in my head watching the negative thoughts go off and say their little iterations over and over again. And once I felt that separate sense of separation, they weren't affecting me as much as they used to before. It was like I made a space for myself. I put the negative thoughts out, and there was a sense of me and the negative thoughts, and it gave me that visceral sense that I was not my thoughts. And that went a long way in putting my negative thoughts under control, so that I was no longer controlled by them. They no longer affected me. So if it's a little complicated, don't worry about it. It took me a while to get it, a long while to get it, but it really was one of the things that made the key differences in me feeling that I had more control over my mind. So that's something you want to try as well. And I'll give you a little bonus. Little bonus is maybe common sense, maybe not, but get some sleep. I find that when I have not had enough sleep the previous night, I'm very cranky and I'm thinking negatively, and that's due to don't get me lying about the different chemicals that course through our bodies, but I think that when we don't get enough sleep, we're either lacking certain chemical in our heads that basically cause us to think more negatively, and that really can only be solved by getting more sleep. And I found that those days when I get enough sleep and I take a nap or go home and catch up to sleep, I wake up feeling much more positive. So that's another way that you can eliminate negative thinking, is by getting more sleep. Anyway, so I hope all this helped in you. They definitely helped me. They made a huge difference in my life. I can say now that I'm really feeling more centered, grounded, and confident than I've ever felt my entire life, or at least a very long time. Well, my entire life. And I think it's just more going up from here. And really, I thank these different steps I listed here were really the difference that made the difference in my life. And unfortunately, I never read any of this in any type of book whatsoever. I wish I had. It would have saved me years of hell that I've gone through and years of stagnation where I got nowhere in my life. I really wish I did. Where the hell were these damn books when I needed them telling me this stuff? So, I hope they help you. Again, if you want to read more wisdom and insights I've been on my path, you can go to www.theviablealternative.com, and you can also follow me on Twitter, TheViableAlt. But man, hey, my hell is your heaven. The hell I went through to get to where now, believe me, I'll say another thing about the hell I went through, about the years I really felt I didn't have control over my mind and really thought I was losing my mind. But these are the treasures that I have that came from these trials and tribulations I've been through. And so I give them to you and hope they're of use to you in your own life. Anyway, take care. God bless and peace.